It was 2007. An 11-year-old girl with dirty blonde hair and blue overalls ran across the hallways, following the sound of a crowd yelling and taunting. Her tight bun became undone as she ran, almost falling down when she hit a sharp left turn. That's when she found out why there was such a commotion. There he was, Ross Lynch. Otherwise known as Loser Lynch. Blonde-haired boy, 11 years old, very small for his age, and the shyest kid of them all. Our class had formed a sort of circle around him, shoving him around as if he were some sort of burden. Daniel, the school bully, was the one who perpetrated it. His parents were going through a rough divorce, or so we were told. He acted out because of it, and so teachers looked the other way. In my opinion, he used it as an excuse to be cruel to others and only get a slap on the wrist. I had a strong sense of justice at this age. I couldn't stand around and watch him being pushed around, kicked, insulted. I wasn't raised like that. So when I saw Ross finally fall down on the floor after a shove and Daniel right on top of him. "Hey!" a high-pitched voice screamed. Daniel turned around, immediately feeling a hard punch that made him stumble back. The crowd went wild as they saw Diana Carter punch the school bully repeatedly, even though he begged me to stop. Daniel managed to scratch my face a few times, making my face bleed and drip blood-stained sweat on my overalls. Kids were cruel. Even at 11 years old, they were drama-hungry people who got excited at the sight of violence. I didn't really understand it, but I knew I had to do something. That's why I did my best to make sure he'd never hurt anyone again. "Please, stop," Daniel begged, sobbing as his face became red. The crowd went silent. Teachers barged in and forcefully dragged me away from Daniel. They did the same with Ross. However, they quickly helped Daniel up, who was bleeding from his lip. He sobbed loudly, losing that bad boy attitude quickly. I couldn't help but smirk when I noticed him crying like a little kid, wiping away his tears with his fists. The teacher took notice of my smirk and squeezed my shoulder a bit harder. "You think this is funny, huh? You kids are so cruel." I wanted to shout back and tell her that the monster she was referring to was Daniel, who hid behind a pathetic excuse to hurt others. They were defending the wrong student. But of course, teachers looked the other way and looked for anyone else to blame. Ross and I were forced to sit down in the waiting room to principal's office. Ross wouldn't stop crying and wiping away his tears, since he was still shaken from the experience. I, on the other hand, rolled my eyes at him. "Stop crying, Ross," I muttered, holding the ice pack to soothe the scratches on my cheeks. Ross kept sniffling, dangling his feet from the chair. He wasn't able to look at me, but I could tell he was grateful. "I can't stop crying, I'm sorry," he apologized. "You gotta learn how to defend yourself. You're lucky I was there, man," I said. "I know," he muttered. I looked away, crossing my arms over my chest. The reason I was so tough was because I grew up with two parents who loved hunting and roughhousing, and two older brothers who picked on me every day. I grew up learning how to defend myself against others. Ross, on the other hand, grew up with 5 other siblings. He was the second youngest of the family, spoiled rotten by them. He didn't know how to defend himself. He didn't grow up that way. "Thank you for saving me," Ross said, finally gaining the courage to face me. "It's nothing. Are you okay?" Again, "It's nothing. I've had worse." Silence ruled the room for a few seconds. Faculty members passed by us without even saying a word, giving us a side eye. I rolled my eyes at them. "You are so strong," Ross pointed out. I glanced at him quickly, and my eyes slightly widened. It was the first time someone pointed this out to me. I considered myself to be of normal strength. What? I asked. You managed to knock Daniel down. Daniel is, like, really big. That's because Daniel's a little bitch who picks on people like you, people who don't know how to punch back. I exclaimed. Ross shrunk down, zipping his mouth shut. I lay against the chair, folding my arms again and looking straight ahead. For some reason, I didn't like what Ross had pointed out. The principal's door opened, and from inside emerged a woman with curly brown hair, dressed in a fancy outfit. Her eyes scanned the waiting room until they landed on the only girl waiting. Diana Carter? She asked. I nodded my head. You have so much explaining to do. I was only trying to defend him, ma'am. I finished my explanation. My dad was holding my hand while I gave my recollection of things. The principal fixed her glasses while typing into her computer the events that had transpired. She then glanced back at me, raising her eyebrow. Well, due to the camera footage, I'm able to confirm your story. I must say, however, you have a strong sense of justice. My mom, who was nearby, chimed in. She grabbed my shoulders and jokingly pushed me around, her short puffy blonde hair bouncing around. That's our girl. Knocking down bullies, she exclaimed with laughter. I slightly smiled when I realized they supported me during this interrogation and that they were proud of my decisions. However, the principal's expression hinted that what she said wasn't a compliment. Well, it's not always a good thing, sir. My mom's smile quickly faded when he heard her tone of voice. The principal sighed. Daniel is going through a rough time with his parents' divorce. We've talked with the children about it. He's acting out because of it. She explained. And? You're letting this little fucker push others around because his parents don't love each other? My mom chimed in again. The principal's eyes widened when she heard my mother's tone of voice. Of course not. I'm just saying, we've discussed this with the class and let them know to tell a teacher about his behavior. Students shouldn't worry about stopping bullying, it's the teacher's job. The principal continued to speak. I rolled my eyes. Diana, why didn't you tell a teacher instead of taking matters into your own hands? The principal now turned to me. I sunk into the chair. Because you never do anything. I muttered. That's an absolute lie, Diana. You know we work hard to prevent bullying. My eyes widened. Bullshit. I said. The principal looked at me with certain distaste and authority. I do not tolerate that language here. She said. You tolerate Daniel hurting Ross. Where's he now, huh? Probably with the teachers, crying about his life when he's caught being a jerk. I said out loud. My dad squeezed my hand.
That is true, Principal Bianchi. Have you talked to Daniel about his actions? Any sort of punishment of some sort?
He asked. Again, we've talked about with the class. Daniel's parents. My mom interrupted the principal. Stop. I don't care why that little shit is doing what he's doing. He's hurting people anyways. He should at least receive some punishment. I will take your consideration into account. The principal stated, turning over to me. However, Diana and Ross will both have to attend detention and write an essay about bullying and its effect. I think it's a fair punishment for Diana, considering she did break the boy's nose. But that's not fair. We weren't bullying anyone. You don't have a choice, Diana. You broke a kid's nose. What about Ross? He didn't hurt anyone. I asked. He didn't tell us what was happening. He should warn us when such actions take place. My mother and father both took all their belongings with an angry demeanor. My dad was more passive-aggressive, but my mother always let everyone know what was on her mind. With all due respect, Principal Bianchi, this is bullshit. You blame children for your incompetence. Let's go, Diana. My mom says we're moving to California after the school year. Ross muttered. We were swinging on the swing set during recess time. We were both in timeout, away from the other children who had witnessed what happened. Ross seemed upset at the fact he had to move away, which honestly surprised me. He was the school punching bag. Everyone seemed to ignore him due to his small stature. I raised an eyebrow. Why are you upset? I asked. Because you're my only friend, apart from my brothers and sister. He explained. I'm going to miss you. I didn't have much friends growing up. Maybe it was due to my strong attitude and the fact that I broke a kid's nose. Hearing Ross say he considered me a friend was something unforeseen, something I did not expect. You consider me a friend? Of course, you saved me from Daniel. He confirmed. Yeah, but anyone can do that. It's just a matter of being a good person. Ross kept swinging higher and higher, kicking his legs up into the air. I, on the other hand, remained seated and held onto the swings. Nobody else tried to save me. He reminded me. I remained quiet, in my own thoughts. I wasn't popular in school by any means. I didn't have many friends, not after I hurt Daniel. Hearing someone call me their friend despite everything was a breath of fresh air. I smiled. Ross said he was leaving for California at the end of the school year, and I was going to make as much of this year with him as possible. They call you Loser Lynch, right? Well, they should also start calling me Loser Carter. I shouted. Ross started giggling as I began to swing higher, joining him. Will you come visit me? Ross asked. It was the end of May. We laid under the hot sun, the grass prickling our skin. My cheeks were red as I began to sweat due to the heat. Ross and I had spent the whole school year together. Every time we had to work with a pair, Ross and I were ready to work together. We would spend our free time in each other's houses, in the park, sharing ice cream. People thought we were an odd pair, the school loser and the strongest girl in class. But that never bothered me. We were all stupid preteens who loved critiquing each other. Ross was bound to leave that week, and we wanted to spend our last weekend laying down under the sun. He played with a small dandelion he plucked from the grown. I don't know, Ross. California is very far away from Colorado. My mom probably won't let me. I said. Ross jerked himself up straight, his blonde hair now reached his shoulders. He didn't seem upset at the fact I straight up told him no. That was something I liked about him, how calm he was compared to everyone else. I'll miss you then, he admitted. I wasn't one who showed much emotion or feelings, especially not those of vulnerability. But Ross somehow managed to change that in me. I'll miss you too, buddy, I said. Ross blew into the dandelion, the small seeds flew away into the horizon. I closed my eyes and let the sunshine bathe me. Ross then threw himself back down. He never told me this, but when he blew into that dandelion, he wished to meet again in the future.